been shared. This is so weird.
Well, thank you. Thank you. What a wonderful crowd we have tonight. Welcome to Late Night Levity, or as I like to call it, Catholic Comedy's Night Off. Yes, tonight is a special ladies' night, and I couldn't be more excited to share the stage with Mrs. Stevo and Mrs. Modern Papist. My bad. But first, let's talk about what it's like being married to a podcaster. When I, oh my gosh, this is all scripted, by the way. When I first met Catholic Comedy, I thought, wow, he's so funny and charming. What could possibly go wrong? Little did I know I was marrying a man who would spend more time talking to a microphone than me. Oh, the life of a podcaster's wife. Every time he gets a new piece of equipment, it's like Christmas morning. Look, honey, this microphone has a built in shock mount. I'm like, that's great, but can it cook dinner? And let's not forget the recording sessions. The house has to be absolutely silent, no dishwashing, no vacuuming, and for heaven's sake, don't even think about sneezing. Our kids have become experts at tiptoeing around the house. It's like living in a library, but without the late fees. The best part? The post show reviews. After every episode, he asks me, "So what did you think?" And I'm like, "It was great, dear, just like the last 50 episodes." Honestly, I couldn't give a TED talk on how to fake enthusiasm. But in all seriousness, being married to a podcaster has its perks. For one, I get to see his passion and creativity firsthand. And let's be honest, it's kind of cool being married to someone who's a bit of a celebrity in the Catholic podcasting world, even if it means sharing him with his other love, the microphone. That was weird. So tonight, we're going to dive into what it's like to be a woman be the women behind the men of late night levity. We'll share stories, laughs, and maybe even a few secrets. Please welcome my wonderful friends, Mrs. Stevo and Mrs. Modern Papist. That was our beautiful AI generated intro.
Oh, I thought he made it for you.
No. He AIs a lot. So the first sketch is actually, the sketch I'm going to play is actually one of my absolute favorite ones. He wrote me into it, and I really enjoyed it.
Everyone, please forgive us.
Yes, we were all introduced to all of this less than 2 hours ago.
Yep.
Let's play it.
Yes.
Oh, my husband's running up. I can't.
It's up there. Difficulties.
Technical difficulties, so many. Hello, K37.
Okay.
Hey, hun, can you help with the dishes?
Ooh, no can do, hun. I have a condition.
A condition?
Yeah, the doctor says I have a serious case of lazy bones.
Lazy bones, huh? Is that the technical term?
Well, the technical term is pigra ossa, but I thought I'd translate it for you.
Thanks for that. So, hey, since you made that up, could you come over and help with the dishes?
It's a serious medical condition. I have a doctor's note and everything.
Let me see this doctor's note.
Here you go.
It says Daddy has lazy bones and can't work today.
Yeah, it looked pretty official to me, so...
Why did he call you Daddy?
I don't question doctors.
Your doctor told you to start exercising, and you called him a quack.
He was a quack. This new guy, though, he's legit. Trust the note.
It's written in crayon.
He didn't have a pen.
This was written by our son,
Who happens to be a doctor.
who happens to be 4.
Look, he had a white coat and a stethoscope. It all seemed very official.
Well, unless our little Doogie Howser has a medical degree, I hereby pronounce you doctor of cleaning the rest of these dishes.
Well, I tried. Do 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 do. Cleaning these dishes takes a long time, but it goes by faster when I sing songs.
It's cute.
Ecce Eduardus Iurus Scalis.
All right, so then we have an AI generated video. Mariana, if you're able to pull that up. That one is based on that.
Where creativity and ingenuity take center stage. In this performance, we saw Stephen, a man plagued by a rare condition known as lazy bones. A condition so severe it prevents him from participating in the most mundane of tasks, such as doing the dishes. The evidence? A doctor's note. But not just any doctor. A 4-year-old prodigy with a crayon and a dream. A young medical professional who just so happens to call Stephen Daddy. But alas, the diagnosis is not convincing enough for Kayla, the ever-skeptical spouse. She questions the validity of the note, the credentials of the doctor, and the seriousness of the condition. And so, the verdict is in. Stephen must face the dreaded task of washing dishes. Yet, in the face of adversity, Stephen remains undeterred. He hums a familiar tune, a testament to his resilience, a tribute to another fictional doctor, a younger one named Dougie Hauser. And so, the tale of Stephen and his lazy bones unfolds. A story of chores, creative excuses, and crayon-written doctor's notes. A tale that reminds us that even in the most ordinary tasks, there's room for a little humor, a little creativity, and a lot of lazy bones. And remember, the next time you're asked to do something you'd rather not, consider getting a doctor's note. Just make sure it's not written in crayon.
I can think of
So,
a whole stack of doctor's notes I'd ask for.
I know, right?
Just over here thinking
Oh
about
my-
crowd. My dad. So when we were younger, we had to get like the teachers to sign, or no, you had to get your parents to sign like the daily planner or whatever in elementary school. And my
Yeah.
dad one time wrote it in crayon, and my teacher got after me, or the like teacher's aide got after me, and I was like, "My dad wrote it. My dad wrote it." And she goes, "I don't believe you." And then the teacher's like, "No, that's her dad's signature."
Yeah, Ryan's handwriting is so bad. I'm sure some of the teachers have had some questions when our kids turn things in.
Yeah.
Stuff for that reason.
My husband's handwriting is also not great. I went to Catholic school for about a year and a half, and they made you sit out in the hall. I know it's like one of those like they would slap your hands with the rulers type thing, but they actually made me sit out in the hallway to perfect my cursive. So I really enjoy my handwriting.
No, we did not get hacked. Well, technically.
Who is Ryan? Steven says. Ryan is the modern papist.
He says it in his videos, so it's fine.
Woo. All right.
No Wayne
That all
secrets
fits
here.
There we go.
Help somebody do that. Sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. I really am.
So
All right.
what? So do your husbands do any other podcasts, or is this their main one, or?
So he has a couple other YouTube channels, but this is the only one that he really does like the live streams with. The Modern Papist channel. He tried one with a meme channel he's got that I guess didn't do very well. So I don't know if he's gonna try that again, but he's really liking the live streams though, so that's fun.
Apparently it's papist,
Tomato,
not
tomato.
papist. What about yours? Doesn't do anything
Well, if you follow my
well,
husband,
podcast wise.
gosh, I love him. He does typically on Thursdays. He goes back and forth on when he does it. He does his conspiracy theory. That's always fun because I get to hear it all week.
Here comes my
Every
cat.
holiday.
Sorry about your chair, hon.
I love the cat. Yes.
This is Blitz. He found her on the street when she was a kitten. Despite her climbing, she is an old lady. They're like 12.
We were given a cat once that was found on the street. Oh, was it a street? It was like actually no. I think it was a hoarder's house. It was a feral cat. And we're both allergic to cats. So
Yep.
that was a very interesting experience while we had her.
Poor kitty.
My husband is very, very creative with naming conventions. So we had a corgi at one point. It was a corgi mix, but he named it Corky. The cat was a calico cat named Callie.
It's like my husband. All of the kids' stuffed animals were Mr. Elephant and Miss Zebra. And like I yelled at him once and he goes, Leroy. So now we have this giant elephant named Leroy. Because
Love
if
it.
was going to be Mr. Elephant.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, before I got married to Mr. Catholic Comedy, I worked at Build-A-Bear Workshop, and I had an unhealthy obsession with stuffed animals. So I had like a stuffed animal problem before I had kids because I was pretty much a big kid, and anytime they came out with like a new bear or something, or like there was always like the Halloween bear, the Valentine's bear, the all that stuff, and I would buy it.
No.
The employee discounted me in, guys. It was rough.
Oh, yes. He has a giant St. Bernard that's his name right there. Mr. St.
Fluffy.
Bernard dog Fluffy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so Steven also has a thing where it's not Build-A-Bear, it's building a bear because you are building a bear. It's not baseball, it's bases ball because there's more than one base.
That's
Shouldn't
fair.
it be stuffing a bear? Because technically you're stuffing the bear, not really building it.
True.
True. He also calls Costco Costing Co. So, I don't know.
I mean, I call Walmart Wally Mart. I blame people.
I don't even remember the last name. What is the last name of the CEO of Walmart? Do you know?
Well,
It's not Walmart.
No, it's Wall
No,
something.
That's the family name is Walton, but I don't know if they're actually still like directly in charge or if they're like major.
I think they sold it, you know.
So does it take a lot of time out of your guys' day with like the conspiracy theory stuff? Do you hear about that all the time? Like you hear
Yes.
all week long about conspiracy theories, and then he gets his own show to talk about all of his ideas. Like does his head just like
Yeah, so, you know, the only time I'm not listening to conspiracy theories is when I'm asleep. That's what it feels like every time. Or if like we're hanging out with, I can't even say my family because, you know, he still is always constantly trying to wake everyone up. God bless him, you know. He's on a mission. God sends him on a mission. That's fine. You know, I got to support it. That's what a wife's for, right? But yeah, like, so I have to drive him to work because we only have one car, and so it's an hour 15-minute drive, and the entire time, if he's not on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, I really don't care, trying to spread his information. He's talking to me about his new theory he's about to do. So like every Wednesday he gets excited. Hello, Big Red. I'm gonna take you off real quick because that was a disturbing photo. Shit, solid. Excuse me. But yeah, so it's a constant new conspiracy. he's always been this way, and then he decided, you know what? I'm like, and I'm very thankful for it because he focuses on that 1 hour. So it's when he started doing it, I started hearing it a little bit less. So that's nice.
Kind of like an outlet for him.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very much so. Twitter.
Are you also a conspiracy theorist as well? Do you buy into anything that he says? Is it something you brought into your marriage as well?
No, this is like there's some of them that are very interesting. Like his latest one is the moon landing. And I fight him on that one, you know. I have to stand hard. It's real, but there are some questions, you know. I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, it's just he's not wrong. You need to do your own research. Don't always take someone else's word for it. You need to look into it yourself, and that's kind of a smart move.
As the downside of the internet is anybody could say anything.
Yes.
Yes,
some people
absolutely.
Probably should think before they do.
Yes.
Is there anything, Mrs. Papist, that you have researched, or you and your husband have researched that you maybe didn't believe initially and then came to find out that you did?
Oh, I don't even know. I've had a very interesting year. So what are you doing? Stop trolling me.
Gotta love the husbands, right?
So
Oh yeah. They're like watching and just adding in their little comments.
My husband's the only one not watching right now. I think he might be.
Shame.
He's probably researching more theories.
Well, that
but
kids.
Boo.
For us, it was definitely seed oils. Like that was something that I saw all over Twitter, and I was like, these people are nuts. Like completely off their rocker. There's nothing wrong with them. Like it's totally fine to, the additives are safe. All this stuff is safe. And then I went to the doctor and I got a diagnosis, and they said, well, here's this new diet that you should follow. And it was like, eat less of these things, eat more of these things. And on the eat less of, it mentioned seed oils. I was like, seriously? So I started looking into it, and then I was like, well, the doctor says I should cut it out. So I cut it out. And then when I tried reintroducing it, like my body went nuts. Like it hurts now. So I can no longer enjoy my Taco Bell or my Culver's or anything like that. Which is sad, but it wasn't good for me anyway.
What was that?
I'd have a real problem if someone took my Taco Bell. Everything.
Those Crunch Wraps, man. Crunch Wrap Supremes were where it was at.
I love their nacho fries. And then I realized I can technically make them at home if you get the seasoned fries and air fry them, and then get the nacho cheese. But I try not to. That's not how.
I like the avocado ranch sauce with my nacho fries. It's really
good.
I want to just pop it up real quick. Pop it down.
All right, y'all. I'm doing pretty good. This is my first time on a podcast, and I'm feeling awkward, but also having fun.
You're touching everything. I can't help myself.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna probably flip my hair into 60 different positions because I'm like, oh, this looks good. Oh no, the other way. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. I'm watching my niece and nephew. One of the pairs. I got a big family.
What about you, Mrs. Papist?
Well, I am mostly trapped under a baby, so I don't know if I could stretch a hand up, but she decided she wanted mom more than dad, so that helps keep me from fidgeting. Because I actually have YouTube channels myself that I haven't been touched in a while because baby, but this is my first time being alive, so I'm very fidgety.
So what kind of YouTube channels do you do?
I had one that was kind of like mom life, organizing type of thing, and then I have my planty channel, the half-assed gardener, and so which I was like, oh, somebody else likes plants. So yeah, that one's probably the more recent one, and I'm still getting subs on there, even though I haven't touched it in like 7 months, which is kind of fun. But like, I really would like to get back to it. It's just really hard with the baby right now, as she's gonna be 3 months old Saturday, so she's still very fresh.
So are you an avid gardener?
I am when not baby. I'm kind of sad that this season I'm pretty much just watching the weeds grow because she's just so small. It's hard, and then it's been so hot and just a weird season for us. But yeah, I do have
I'm not.
plants that are doing okay though.
So just
At least she
fucking 'em.
doesn't. At least she doesn't talk over people. Okay.
It's my husband has a hard time
Let him
giving
go.
the floor to others.
Yeah, I think
I'm
it's funny
hyper.
like, him and Mr. Peepus talk over each other.
Yeah, I'm hyper aware of it because I have a really bad habit of doing that, and so I try to be hyper aware of like asking others about them. So, oh, we had a dog situation, I guess.
I'm just not
So,
used to talk.
all right. So where do you live, and what's your climate like for your gardening?
So we're in a zone 6B, if you're pay attention to the USDA gardening zones, which I know some of them just got adjusted because of all the climate shifts that have happened, but we stayed. So I really try to do a lot of perennials outside because I like not having to just stare at bare dirt until I get to the garden center. So I did have a couple blank patches that I intended to fill in this year, but then grew other things instead. So
That's awesome. I have a black thumb. I kill indoor plants.
okay.
However,
I kill stuff too, and I went to school for it, so don't feel bad.
oh, you went to school for it? That's cool.
You don't
Yeah,
kill the
I have
most
a
important thing.
horticultural science degree.
That's really cool. Yeah, I kill pretty much everything. However, I have 2 tomato plants that I bought at Costco that are doing really, really well. We're getting more tomatoes than we even know what to do with, so I've been making a lot of spaghetti sauces with it.
Salsa, spaghetti sauce, tomato basil soup.
Yum.
Ooh,
Ketchup.
hang on.
Make your own ketchup.
Capreses.
Up. Dog go bark. Yes, the dog does go bark because there's probably something outside, probably a deer.
Oh, a deer. Where are you guys located?
The middle of nowhere. I'm trying to keep my husband's location under wraps.
Ah, gotcha.
You know, those conspiracy theories can get you killed.
Yeah, probably. That's probably wise. But deer are fun. And I'm in Arizona, so I'm in the low desert. We are, but what's cool about Arizona is there's the high desert, there's the mountains, you got all your pine up north, and then you get your crazy like stereotypical Southwest desert cowboy type deal. Which growing up with it myself my whole life, it has zero appeal to me at all. Like just so used to it. So when like I have family come in from out of town and they're like, "Oh, cool, I'm gonna get cowboy boots and a cowboy hat." I'm like, "Why?" Because I'm so used to it all. But yeah, so we're in the desert here, but I like to be able to go up north and see the pine trees, and there's deer and elk and everything. My 4-year-old, almost got rampaged. Rampage is probably not the right word. Rushed, I guess, rushed by a mother deer because there was a family going by and we're telling all the kids, we're like, come on, guys, let's give them space. And my 4-year-old's just standing there and the deer starts like stomping her feet, like staring straight at him. Her head goes down and my husband flies over the balcony ledge and he just jumps down and he runs and he scoops our son up and just runs back with him. And I was like crazy impressed by it. But I didn't understand what was happening. I was like, it's just a deer. It's no big deal because I'm not used to deer. And he was like, that deer was going to charge him.
Yeah, they can be very aggressive when it comes to their babies.
Yes.
Same.
As
Right?
most females are, you know, even if you're not fully their biological mother, because, you know, my nieces and nephews, I'd probably beat someone up for. But
Yeah, I'd fight a
Yeah.
wolf for my niece, for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I know
not the
before
nephews though, just the niece.
just the,
I only have one. I have one
oh,
niece.
So
And I feel
simple.
so bad for my kids because they have one cousin. I mean, it's great that they have a cousin, but it's like I grew up. My dad is one of 7, and my mom is one of 3, and everybody had at least 2 kids. So I have like a whole gaggle of cousins, and then on my mom's side, we were really close to my extended family, like my grandma's mom's side. So like all 52 second cousins would actually get together, and so like them just having one cousin just makes me so sad. But
Yeah.
it does make it a little easier to not have to remember too many birthdays, though. Since I do have 5 of my own, I only have to remember 6 kids' birthdays, really.
How many I was going to ask in Catholic comedy, how many nieces and nephews you have? I might as well, right?
Oh,
That's
my family is interesting. So I actually grew up with a rather small family. My mother was one of 2 children. My father was an only child. And then my grandparents were only one of like 1 or 2. So rather small. Like our holidays were like 6 or 7 people. So from that family, I have 2 nephews and a niece. Well, possibly 2 nephews. It gets complicated and dramatic in my family. But then my husband, however, comes from a big New York Italian family. Tell the story he wants me to tell. All right, so it gets complicated because my dad who raised me is not my biological father. And I just found this out last year.
Oh, wow.
That is dramatic and complicated.
Yes. So so I guess technically I have many more nieces and nephews. But so last year my dad who raised me told me something big was going to happen, but he didn't want it to come from him. And he asked me, he's like, is there anything you couldn't forgive? And I'm like, I'm a Catholic. There's technically nothing I can't forgive. Like I have the examples of all these saints. There's nothing I can't forgive. I said, however, if somebody hurt my children, that would be very, very difficult to forgive. Not impossible, but very difficult. And he said, okay. And that was it. And so I had actually posted on Twitter, I was like, my dad just said this really weird thing. He's never asked about my faith. He's never asked about forgiveness before. I have no idea what's going on. Somebody's like, maybe he won the lottery. And I was like, that doesn't really match, but that's what I'm hoping for. So he then takes my husband out to lunch and he tells my husband that he's not my biological father. And my husband calls my mother, tells her, he goes, I know everything. You should tell her. And she's like, no, she's pregnant. I don't want to stress her out, yada, yada, yada. And he goes, well, I can't lie to her because that would be a sin. So, sorry, it was dinner, not lunch. So he said, if she guesses it, though, I'm not going to tell her. But if she guesses it, I cannot lie to her. And so he comes home and he's like, do you have any idea what we talked about? And he's like egging me on to guess. And I'm like, I don't know. And so I'm guessing, I'm like, does that have to do with my brother? Does that have to do with my sister? You know, these people I grew up with, this recent drama that happened in the family. No. So it comes down to, okay, it has to do with my mother, my father, and me. Well, my mom and dad don't talk anymore. They've been divorced since I was 5. So I was like, so it had to have been something while they were married. And I joked, I said, what? Did my dad have an affair? He's like, no. I was like, okay, my mom. I'm thinking, what's the big deal? Whatever. How does this affect me? And I was like, what? Is my dad not my dad or something? And he goes, yeah. And I just looked at him. I was like, "That is the worst joke ever. That's not even funny because he jokes all the time about things." But I was like, "That's not even funny. That's not cool." My dad and I are tight. We are very close. And he's like, "Kayla, I'm not joking." And so within a month, actually about a week later, I posted about it kind of on Twitter a little bit. And apparently my biological father's wife, who they reconciled their marriage and made it all work, she was like an amateur detective after the affair, and she had been following me my entire life. And any social media presence I had, they watched my high school graduation online and everything because they didn't know what I looked like, but they listened for my name. And she happened to be following me on Twitter. I had no idea. And I'm under Mrs. Catholic Comedy, so I'm like, I didn't know. She somehow knew all of that. And so right after I posted that, I get a Facebook message from some guy. And he's like, "Hey, I just found out that you learned about your origins. I'm your biological father." And like my whole life has like exploded since then. So I have no full biological siblings because I'm a love child. It's very interesting. And but my half brother and sister from my biological dad, my brother has 5 kids. 4 girls and 1 boy. So I have 4 nieces and 1 nephew there. And then my half sister has 1 biological son. Literally 10 steps back. No, my stepmom, I guess technically, was not buying me in a trench coat. But so then she has 4 kids, 1 biological, 3 adopted. So I think. Hold on. Let me think. No,
You're still
sorry.
learning. It's okay.
3 kids. Yeah, I am still learning. So birthdays wise, I am a mess.
You're
Like
just
I
like,
don't know anybody's birthday. I know my own kid. Like I get my own kids mixed up. Like I can tell you the day and the month, but don't ask me the year. Like I was like,
I have 2 kids that are both on the 21st of a month. So
oh no.
they're different months though.
Oh, I couldn't.
My bad.
So do
That
you?
was it. Huh?
I was gonna ask you, Mariana, how many nieces and nephews you have?
Well, I have currently, oh my gosh, 15 nieces and nephews. I have another one on the way due in December. I hope I'm okay to say that. I think she's far enough along. So yeah, we're going on number 16, possibly 17. I've been having pregnancy dreams. If you don't know me, I have very interesting dreams that when I have pregnancy dreams within 3 months, typically I find out someone's pregnant. So yeah, in my family, I'm weird. My brother calls me a witch because I've gotten like every 15 I've known that someone was pregnant. I didn't know exactly who, but I was like, oh, and I told my mom, I was like, someone's going to be pregnant. I'm going to find out soon. Give us 3 months. And literally almost every time within the 3 months, I found out. And then like when they get closer to when they find out their genders, I'll have another dream. And it gets really confusing because I've had one year I had 4 nieces, or 3 nephews, 1 niece born and within the 6-month time span. So I was like that. Those were all kind of chaotic. I was like, there's a girl in there somewhere. Like I just don't know where. So yeah, my brother calls me a witch, or he says it in Spanish, but I can never forget it.
I don't even know what that would be in Spanish. I don't know. Somebody look up
I don't want to say the wrong word. I have a word in my head, but I don't want to say it because I don't want
right, because you accidentally use profanity on the podcast.
Yeah, especially in Espanol. No hablo español.
I mean, there was an explicit content warning in the intro video. So
I thought that was hilarious. I really like that.
I always laugh at it. I'm just sitting there. I go, Steven, it's because of you.
It's the conspiracy theories.
It is.
That's hilarious. So, are your husbands really close to their families then? Do you guys visit them all a lot?
Ours is complicated.
More complicated than mine?
Almost. Yeah, just about.
No, but I guess probably less of a happy sort of surprise because you got more family out of the deal, right?
True. That is true. It wound up turning out really well.
Yeah, ours is more like I don't know how much he's okay with me saying. I know he's talked about some of it in the past. There's issues with some ashes not being properly interred that has caused a bit of a rift that is getting worse with time rather than better. So, yes.
Heathens.
Well, a previous friend of ours actually used to be our priest, referred to them as heathens clinging to an identity. So, because his whole family are cradle Catholics. I think his one aunt might have converted when she married in, but yeah. So, pray for them all.
Wow. Yes,
pray for us.
absolutely.
You gotta pray for everyone, man.
Yeah.
Everyone needs prayers. That's why we have a lot of saints too.
Totes.
Absolutely.
That's why I have my lovely background.
I love
semi-dedicated.
it. That's
Thanks.
cute.
I only
It
see
has-
like the flowers around the edges.
I know. It sucks because they had to cut off some of it. There's an anchor on top somewhere, but you can't see it because this thing's
So
special.
is it like an underwater garden type deal? Because it almost looks underwater, but then it's
Okay.
not.
I love Little Mermaid. That's why Steven's like, "Oh, do an underwater theme," and I was like, "Okay," but I was like, "I really want to do my patron saint, my confirmation saint, Saint Philomena." I just used some of her symbols, so there's a lily and there was an arrow and somewhere in there, but it gets cut off, so I was like, "I'll just leave the lily. It's pretty."
I love it. I love the Little Mermaid. That was my favorite princess for the longest time. Actually, she's up there still for me. So when my husband proposed to me, I was working at Disney World, and he came and proposed to me inside Cinderella's castle. But there's like a restaurant in there, and the I'm not singing. Nope,
Who are
not.
you asking?
So there's a restaurant in there, and it's one of those character meal things. So the princesses would come around to your table, and I kind of knew he was going to propose. I was like expecting it because of how it was all set up and how special it was. But then like Ariel came to my table, and I lost it. I was like, nope, I don't care what else is happening. It's Ariel. I work there. If this girl weren't in makeup, I probably knew who she was. But I was like, that whole suspension of belief thing, super strong with me. I love it. I was like, it's Ariel! Like, I was so excited. And and then he proposed afterwards, but I was like, it's Ariel. It's all about Ariel.
That's all that matters.
I just
I was
got
trying
engaged to Ariel.
I was trying to convince my Steven. I go, you know what you can get me for our wedding? And he goes, what? I go, because I had just seen the actress who played Ariel go to someone's wedding and sing, and I was like, I want that. Can you do that for me? Of course, it's not.
The new Ariel or Jodie Benson?
No, Jodie Benson.
I think I
was like,
cool.
Do it. I would love you forever. Like
would
you
be
could
cool.
do not almost anything because there's things, like yes. But of course that didn't happen because money struggles. I'm sure she wanted money. He probably also didn't really care enough. So we have a fun story. What?
Ooh, what's your fun story?
Okay, so we got married while we were still in college. I was in my sophomore year and he was in his junior, I think. Might have, yeah. We were both there for 5 years on our degrees, so like the timeline gets fuzzy. But we were actually only dating for like 3 days, and then he's just like, we should elope. And I was like, okay. And then we I don't know, like a week later or something, we had managed to get an appointment with the priest that we wanted to officiate, and we walked into his office and we're like, we're getting married and we want you to do it. And he's like, okay. And and then we got married that spring break. It was like 4 months and some change from the day we walked into the priest's office. So, and now it's been like 14 years.
That's awesome.
That's a short time span. Like, I wish I could have done that, but we decided not to elope like 5 minutes later. I'm sorry. I should post that up instead of read it.
Yeah, because college and we were broke. So
Oh, we got a question for Mrs. Comedy.
What year was our family established?
Is this supposed to be a trick question?
No, it's an inside joke. I was working in Disney in 2012.
Okay.
And he came out and proposed in November of 2012. We got married in 2013. However, after our first child was born, I thought for Father's Day, I think it was, or a birthday, it's like, how fun would it be to go to As You Wish and make like a plate clock? And I'd have our daughter's handprints on it, and it would say like Garon's, like established, and I put established 2012. And so he's like, we didn't get married in 2012. We got married in 2013. I was like, no, the family was established when you proposed, which was in 2012. So I tried everything to cover my butt on that one. But he still clearly brings it up. He hasn't brought that up in quite some time. So of course, when I'm live on the internet, it's a good time.
Well, for my husband, so not everyone who's probably watching has ever gone to a Catholic wedding, but like for our wedding, we did the whole mass, and so you kneel in front of the priest when you're up there, right? And so I don't like kneeling on the kneelers. I rather kneel on the ground. But it kind of looks bad if the bride's kneeling on the ground and the husband's kneeling on the kneelers. And so my mom goes, oh, why don't we get some pillows so y'all can kneel on the pillows? I was like, okay, yeah, that's good, because Stephen doesn't have the greatest of knees because of where he works, wear and tear. And so we got these pillows. Me and my mom ordered them, and we decided to put the date we got married. And when we got the pillows, it said 10/19 when we got married in 2019. So I was like, Stephen, I love you 1,000. I've loved you for 1,000 years,
I love it. For 1,000 years. I love it.
I sing that song to my kids as a lullaby.
Oh, really? That's so sweet.
Just the chorus part. The rest of it gets a little weird as a lullaby, but I'm like,
I mean, as long as it puts me to sleep, what is it?
My husband's favorite lullaby is the Oscar Mayer Wiener song and the Klondike song. I like to
go to a Klondike bar.
I like it. I'm glad you like that.
Keep them in the house.
I know my go-to is usually the song Lavender's Blue. I don't know if you guys have heard that one. I heard it first in the live action Cinderella. It's lavender's blue, dilly dilly, lavender's green. When I am king, dilly dilly, you shall be queen. Kind of a thing. That's my go-to.
So when our firstborn was tiny, Ryan tends to make up like dumb songs for the kids and other stuff. But when she was tiny, he took her name to like the tune of Iron Man, and so I was like, "Baby Selenia, baby Selenia." And just like,
my brothers do the same thing,
but
and I do too because we have a problem.
And like, I will still occasionally like have it in my head, 10 years later.
Yeah. My brother is like I said, I have a big family. Okay, I'm one of 9, so I got a big family. That's why there's 15 grandkids and still counting. Sorry, Power Rangers.
Stop. Okay. I'm not gonna sing all these stupid songs. You can do it when you come back on.
Oh my gosh, my brother is always like, one of his songs. Forgive me. He used to go, "Bad girls better go to jail. Lock them up and throw away the key. Don't let the bad come after me." Mind you, he used the kid's name, not a bad word, just making sure everyone's aware. I just didn't want to use their names.
That's hilarious. I love it.
That song is stuck in my head forever. All because of him. So, thanks. I still sing it to them all, like every niece and nephew now. It goes to them. It's funnier when they get locked up in the dog cage. They do it to themselves. I do not do it to them.
Okay, I was like, you're gonna need to elaborate on that one.
You get those puppies to train
too. It's okay.
Well, my niece, the one I'm watching right now, she likes to pretend to be a dog, and so like she was a baby. I was like, instead of trying to teach her what sound does a dog make, bark, bark. I was like, what does the doggy do? And go, and so now that's all she does. And so she loves pretending to be a dog. And I was like,
how old is she?
She is 2.5. She turns 3 in October.
That's right on par for that age. My 2-year-old, she does that, and it's hilarious because she came into the kitchen yesterday. So yesterday, I give myself between 3 and 4 o'clock to make dinner because between 4 and 7 our electricity bill goes up. It's a time savings thing. And so at 3 o'clock, I realized I have no plan for dinner. And I have 3 pounds of ground beef, some potatoes that are getting wrinkly and need to be used, and some veggies that are also getting wrinkly and need to be used. I'm like, what do I do? And the ground beef is completely frozen. And so I start trying to thaw the ground beef. I wind up pulling off an entire shepherd's pie, which I was crazy impressed with myself for. I was like, man, I could be on like Master Chef or something. Probably not, but I like to think so. And my 2.5-year-old, she comes in and she's just like walking through the kitchen. I'm like a tornado in there right now. Like my stress levels are through the roof. And she's just like, ruff, 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 ruff. And I'm like, no doggy right now, no doggy. And so she stops and she's like, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. I was like, no frogs either. And she goes, meow, meow. Like, no cats, no anything out of the kitchen. And she was like so sad. I'm like, sorry. You're a very cute cat frog thing.
My niece is a drama queen. I love her to death. She is just like her mother. So much.
That means her mother is going to have some interesting time with her later.
Oh, she knows. Because that's how she was. And when she was growing up, she knows. It's just, what is it? They always say, the way you act, you're going to reap it 10 times over or something with your kids. And I'm like, I'm glad I was a good kid.
I was generally a good kid, but my oldest is just like me. She's 9. And she's just like me. And we argue a lot to the point where our knight in shining armor has to come in, my husband, and break it up because and then it's she and I arguing to him about who is right and who is justified. And he's like, Kayla, you're arguing with a 9-year-old. Like, I'm obviously going to take your side. What is your deal? Like, why are you trying to justify it? Like, I need justice.
You got to be on my side. You're on my side. You're my husband.
It's like, her arguments are good. Like mine used to be when I was her age.
Yeah.
I have a niece who's
the first kindergartner ever suspended from my elementary school. So
what? How? Why?
Yeah. Well, I bit the teacher, and she ended up needing stitches. She had it coming.
She had it coming.
I know. I was thinking
it. I don't know. The line is fuzzy on that.
I'm sure you were in the right.
Totally was. Okay, so I was raised like middle of nowhere, basically didn't see any kids that weren't my cousins until I started preschool, and that didn't go well. And then I was in kindergarten and it still wasn't going very well. And I'd rather sit in my cubby all day and just wait. Well, half the day, because they had the half day kindergarten then. And just wait for me to get on the bus and go home rather than play with the other kids. And so my teacher one time thought it was a good idea to tell me that if I would come out and play nice, that my mom could come in and play with us before we had to go home. I was a very time-aware, 4-year-old. And I noticed that we were definitely running out of time for my mom to show up. And so I asked her, she's like, hey, is my mom coming? In 4-year-old. And she's like, oh, no, sweetie, we don't have time today. And so I was like, "You lied!" and dove under the giant table and sat under there growling at her. What possessed this woman to reach her hand under the table at a growling feral child? I will never understand. Because she definitely did not pull back the same hand she stuck under there. She did eventually get me out from under the table to like drag me by my ear to the principal's office, where I was then reprimanded for biting the teacher, obviously. And then she wasn't there the next couple of days, I guess. I mean, I got suspended, so I wasn't either. But yeah, I ended up suspended, but I got ice cream on the way home. So I guess she did have it coming.
I mean, she lied to you.
She did. She did.
A kid's sense of justice is pretty fantastic. Here in
Yeah.
Arizona, we learn really young, don't stick your hand in places unless you want to get stung or bitten by something.
Yeah. Yep. She learned that day.
Oh my gosh. So I have an actual funny story about a niece of mine, one of my many nieces. And love her to death, but when she was in, I want to say it was kindergarten or first grade, she there was this boy who was being really annoying to her in her class, like really annoying. And so she slapped him. And when I heard the story, I thought, okay, no big deal. And she says the boy's name. And then I was like, what was that boy's last name? And she says the boy's last name. I was like, that was my boss's son. So I had no idea they were even in the same class until my niece slaps him in the face. Like, okay. Like that's, but you know, little boys, they're they're annoying.
That's in the hard way.
Yeah. They have to. And you know what? Boys do a lot better with that. Like my husband too, like men in general, like all stages, I feel like they learn a lot better from those kinds of interactions than girls do necessarily. Like girls don't really hit each other so much. I mean, there's exceptions obviously, but at least from my experience, it's a little bit more like backhanded or like gossipy or
we play the mind games.
yes, much more the mind games. Whereas men tend to be like, okay, hit the other guy and then it's done and we're all good and we can move on with our lives.
Yeah, they're just straightforward.
No.
Yeah, and we play the long game.
Like, we'll deliver one scathing remark that will stay with you until you are 45.
Right. And I have to be so careful with that with my 9-year-old because I'm like, I have to constantly remind myself that I can't just try to tear her down because that was like survival of the fittest for a girl growing up, you know? Like you had to learn to adapt to make it with other girls. Like I had a lot better time with
that was not my
boys.
words.
That was not my words. You cannot have quotations around that.
Always.
But yeah, I got along a lot better with boys than I did with girls because girls just there's too much drama and clickiness and all that jazz. It was too much for me. But
I feel like I agree, you know, but
probably why I mostly didn't have friends. That and the biting people probably didn't help.
It's just fun. That's the girl that bites people. Follows you. That was 12 years ago, guys. We're about to graduate high school. Can you let it go?
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I guess I moved between 6th and 7th grade. Then I was no longer the kid that bit poor Mrs. Hawking.
Yeah. No.
Go on.
I was just going to make a comment because you were making a comment how men tend to think differently. I think it also that has a lot to do with the way they were raised has a lot to affect it as well. Because trying to think how to wear this. My husband, he grew up in a difficult house. And so he's mainly raised by his mother because his dad passed away when he was young. And so he didn't have that father figure. So he had a lot more female influence. And so I think sometimes I'm more of a man than him.
I bet his comeback game is on point, though.
I mean, yeah.
Right,
I will say, no, like, God bless him. And I saw when we first met, I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, I got a lot of work to do. But as my friends at that time always told me, I have a superhero complex. I have to save him. I was like, God put him in my life to save him, and God uses me to help save him. And he has very much become more the man I knew he could be. Yeah, so still growing.
Awesome.
We're all still learning, but
awesome. My husband dragged me down.
He dragged you down?
He did.
The stairs?
So I went. So actually, when I met my husband, I wanted to be a nun. I wanted to be a Poor Clare, and I met him through a mutual friend, and we just started talking. He's like, "Oh, that's cool. You want to be a nun? If I'm not married by, I think it was like 28 or something, then I'm going to be a priest." I was like, "That is so cool." And so we got to talking and everything, and then a relationship formed. But he was a fallen away Catholic, raised Catholic, but had fallen away pretty hardcore. And I was like just super uneducated about my faith, and it was completely based around emotions. So sad face. So so I wound up falling away from the faith to being at his level where he was at with whatever he was doing. And then his sister, so he and his sister hadn't had all of their sacraments. So his sister decided to get confirmed in 2018. And she was like telling him, she's like, "Are you going to come to the mass? It's the Easter Vigil Mass." And he's like, "It's 3 hours." And he's looking at me. He's like, I was like, "Just tell her you're sick. Tell her you're sick." And so he does. And she's like, "Well, then Kayla can come." I was like, I 3 hours. And what's even, yes, I was a once.
Everyone can be saved, guys.
I went from wanting to be a nun to being a super heathen. And then I tried lying my way out of this Easter vigil, and I couldn't. And Steven's like, "You got to take this bullet for me. You got to take it for me." I was like, fine. So I showed up a half hour later, like at least it's only 2.5 hours now. And I sat there, and the homily was basically, accept Jesus into your life. Worst case scenario, you're right back where you started, and you're not any worse for wear.
That's fair.
Okay. I had been kind of thinking about going to church for about a year at that point, but I really like sleeping in. So it's like getting up for mass on a Sunday was not top priority for me. So I was like, all right. So she was no longer my boss anymore because I no longer worked, but for her. But she was Catholic, and she was inviting us to mass. So we went to mass with her, and we went to like a parish festival and stuff. And my husband just automatically signs up for Knights of Columbus, just straight off the bat. Like he went 0 to 100 just in one day. And I was like, yeah, he was like, "If we're doing this, we're doing it." And I was like, okay. Like, I was terrified because my faith before was completely based on emotions, no logic or anything. It was just, if I felt God, I was spiritual, and I was like in love with Jesus and everything like that. I was very much like the Jesus freak kind of idea, but I was uneducated. So that was in 2018. And we came back, and my husband got confirmed that year. We got our marriage convalidated that year. We got all 3 of our children at the time, our 3 oldest girls, baptized because they hadn't been baptized. And in order to get convalidated, we had to go through the NFP and everything, go through all the pre-Cana. And and we hated NFP. Like, I was so sure that was the hill my marriage was going to die on. So we conceived another child that year as well. We're like, screw it, just enjoy all the babies.
My sister hates NFP too, but for different reasons.
There's a lot of different reasons that people have. But we were definitely to a point where like, you know what? Can we afford a baby? Do we have space for a baby? Yes. Yes. Do we have time for a baby? Sure. Why not? Bring it on. Bring on the babies. And
Bring
it just
on.
kind of snowballed from there. Because we went from 1 to 3. We had twins. So we had
Oh, wow.
1. And then
Okay.
I was like, we're gonna be one and done. That way, when she's in high school and her group or whatever she's in goes to Europe, we can afford it. We're gonna send her to Europe. And then after a while, I just like was he kept, every baby that we got, he would get a raise too. So it was like God saying, just keep having the babies. And but yeah, so I was like, we can handle one more. I think I can handle one more kid. That American dream, 2 kids and a dog and a house, the white picket fence. We could do that. One more kid. And then we go to the first ultrasound and they're like, do twins run in your family? And I was like, no, at least not that I knew of. Apparently they did. I just was never told that, which by the way, if twins run in your family, tell your daughters like when they reach puberty, because that's very vital information. But I was like, no, I don't think so. She's like, well, I was going to say triplets, but it looks like that's just like a little black spot. There's 2 heartbeats here. And I'm just like in shock because I'm thinking I can handle one more. And my husband's sitting in the chair next to me, maniacally laughing. He's like,
It was my plan all along.
I was like, what is your deal? He totally laughed right in my face. He absolutely loved that whole thing. And because we had our very first pregnancy, we miscarried. And so we called his mother afterwards and we're like, oh, you're not having, oh my gosh, what was she at now? That would have been grandchild number 7, 8. But we were having twins, so it was 8 and 9. So he goes, you're not going to have 8 grandchildren. She's like, oh no. He's like, you're going to have 9. She's like, what? And at that time, I was working for the Disney store and my boss was a twin and she was like, I knew it. I knew you were going to have twins. And it was like this big like thing. And I'm like, I never want to have a twin pregnancy again. I mean, I would gladly accept any babies God gives, but
God likes to laugh at Jesus.
that was horrible. So anyway, I got way off guard, or off topic there, but
we always do.
That's part of being Catholic wife. The children, it counts.
I don't talk to a lot of adults, so this is really nice.
I only talk to my husband and my brother and sister-in-law, and maybe my mom every now and then.
Like getting to talk to somebody, to an adult that you don't live with, just turns on word vomit mode.
It's
has so much to say.
You do not.
You know.
Do not
That
even
is a major lie. I also want to note it when y'all do game night, that is a whole other issue because I solve the problem a lot faster than y'all. I'm sorry.
I grew up watching Wheel of Fortune with my grandparents. And like watching them struggle over some, I was like, "Come on, guys!
We're old, okay? The brains don't function like they used to."
Like I wanted to put it in the live chat, just like done.
Yes. I was like, "It's this. Why don't y'all understand?" You know, I feel like Steven does the same for me. So thank you for being my one adult conversation, guys.
I got
anytime, at least once a month.
Once a month.
I know. My Steven is always encouraging friendships, which is great, but it's like he'll be like, you should be more outgoing. I used to be this super outgoing person, like very, very outgoing, very talkative, like made friends really quickly, really easily. And then there was like a period of my life where I got ghosted by friends a lot and I didn't know what I did wrong because they would just disappear, right? They just stopped talking to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. And so now I'm terrified when I make new friends. I start like every friendship with, okay, if you no longer want to be friends with me at any point in the future, can you please tell me what I did wrong so I can improve for the next
A fun
Yes.
exit interview for the friendship.
I at least tell people like, "Wow, this is over." I
Right.
mean, I don't end friendships. They end friendships with me because I grew up with 5 older brothers, so I don't have the nicest of tongues sometimes. I'm just blunt, very blunt. We had kids.
I'm one of those people where it's like, if we're friends and I know we're friends, in my head, we're still friends, even if you haven't talked to me in like 5 years.
I mean, I
So
respect
like,
this.
if you start talking to me again, I'll be glad to hear from you. But I also suspect that I just annoy everybody that I come into contact with, and they're too nice to say anything about it.
Me too.
So-
I feel like I come on way too strong, and I open because I'm an open book for the most part, and I've learned over the years to kind of dial it back. But I wear my heart on my sleeve. My emotions are always out there for everybody to see. I really suck at hiding it,
I know I
and
see it on X.
and I really was crazy outgoing, and now I'm like, well, I should probably hold back certain aspects of my life. I should probably, not jump into
Like-
you're my new best friend. Let's be
I feel
friends.
like as we get older, we start learning, okay, especially with as you start losing friends, you're like, is it really worth their information kind of thing? Like, do they really deserve to know this? Especially when it comes with like my extended family, not just like me and my husband. And even then, you need to be careful with what you say about you and your husband because they have all that gossip on y'all and they know all the secrets. Don't gossip.
I'm like, I don't have time to slowly get to know people. It's like, you get whatever comes out of my mouth.
I think I put people at arm's length a lot because I have gotten so deep with people so quickly and then they disappear that I'm like, okay, I can't keep putting myself in that situation.
Yeah, because then that hurt.
Yeah, it hurts a lot, especially when you have no closure there and you have no idea what you did wrong. So you can't correct it. You can't fix your mistake. You can't learn from it because you don't know what you did.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes
but I have.
Did I overshare? And then I'm like, well, if I couldn't handle that, I guess that's that.
I'm questioning one of my friendships. I don't know if we're friends anymore.
I have a friend who we've kind of like known each other. I have a friend we've known for a few years, but just recently has our friendship kind of kicked off. Do you want? I would love some tea.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Where's my tea at?
Does Ryan overshare? Does Modern Papist overshare?
Does he not? Is the better question.
This is a shorter list of things he doesn't share.
It's not so much he overshares, because like I'll overshare. Like if another woman I'm talking to has kids, I will very easily launch into like full birth stories if we get there, just full detail. Because I'm like, she's been there.
You can tell me all the birth stories. I love it.
But he's like, he'll get into more detail about like ideas than people necessarily want. So it's like it's almost like he's always got a lecture like preloaded.
That's my guy too. Yeah, Steven is very much he's the well actually guy. So if you say something and it's even slightly incorrect, he'll be like, well actually,
That's true.
and then give you a whole lesson on the topic.
So his comment there
say she is good.
With my fourth kid, while I'm being stitched up, she's like, you're just great at having babies. But she hadn't delivered any of my other kids. Like that was her first experience, and I'm not even sure that she's the one that caught him. But then I had her again for the delivery of our fifth, and she was like, yep, still good at having babies. So that is a professional opinion that I am.
I love it. I love it. I am not good at having babies in that I never prepare myself at all for any of them. I don't. I have a book that's called I think it's like 9 months with Mary or something like that. It's like you go through the whole it's like a whole preparation process for 9 months. And I've never opened it. So like number 6, so I have 7 here on Earth. Number 6 was born the night before our very first Catholic Comedy Festival. And I was due like that week. A minute for the
I
quick
don't even know
thrill.
what that means, Aaron.
I don't either.
I just felt like you needed to be seen, man.
But so we had at that festival, we had the Catholic Man Show, and we had Father Leo peddling hug, and then just a few other people kind of there. But we had to go pick up the Catholic Man Show guys from a golf game. They were doing a golf game. Well, that morning I had a ton of Braxton Hicks. So that morning, even though I was feeling some contractions, I was like, these aren't real. It's another fake one. And that afternoon, we're sitting in the car waiting for them to finish up their golf game at a resort. And I'm like, okay, I actually think this is real. Like, I think this is it. And so I start timing them. And he calls them and he's like, hey, how far are you guys in your game? They're like, oh, we're at like the 16th or 17th hole, something like that.
So another 3 hours.
Yeah, right? It's like football. And he's like, okay. We're here, just take your time, whatever. And then the contractions start picking up and I'm timing them and I'm like, okay, I can still talk through them. I'm okay. I got this. This is fine. Then they come to about 2 minutes apart, 2 to 3 minutes apart. So I call my OB at that point. I'm like, hey, this is how far apart they are. What should I do? And this is number 6, mind you. So
What should I do?
I know what I should do. And she's like,
There's that denial
come
moment right there.
into the hospital is what you should do. I was like, well, you see, we're at this resort and we're waiting to pick up the guys from the Catholic Man Show because they're finishing a golf game. So we got to wait for their golf game to be done. And then we got to take them to their hotel room. So I really don't have time to go to go to the hospital.
Cross your legs, right?
Right? And she was like, come in when you can. Like, what? Like, who does that? And so we call up the Catholic Man Show guys and we're like, hey, Steven goes, hey, my wife's in labor. Could you guys hurry up? And they're like, okay. And they, at that point, they were like at their 18th hole or whatever. And so they rush. I don't remember if they, we were supposed to
end the game, like.
Right? I can't remember if they ended the game or if they finished it, but we were going to take them we were taking them to their hotel, and then we were going to take them to our favorite restaurant, which was teppanyaki, and it was going to be this whole like night before the festival kind of get together, talk and everything like that. And I was super excited for this meal because it's a special treat for me to go there. And we pull around to the front to get them in the car because they're like, we're coming. And they see me. They're like, you're in the car? What are you doing? We're like, we thought you were like at the hospital, and he had to rush to the hospital. They're like, go to the hospital. Like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, no, I'm good. Come on in. Get in the car. Like I said, I don't prepare. So they're throwing their stuff into the car. They get in the car and we drive them to their hotel. And then it starts getting difficult to talk. Like, I'm at a point where I'm having trouble talking and I'm like rubbing on my legs to kind of like relieve the stress and everything and the tension and the pain. And so she goes, they're like, so just chatting with me, and I'm trying to just chat, act like everything's normal, everything's fine. We take them to the hotel, and then my husband's sitting there leaning up nonchalantly up against the host desk, the reception desk, and just chatting with them. I'm like, we need to go. We like really need to go, but I didn't want to miss dinner, but we need to go. And so he gets in the car and he's like, okay, call the hospital, tell them we're coming in hot. So he calls the hospital. He's like, we're coming in hot. And they're like, has her water broke? He's like, has your water broke? And I was like, no. And then he's still on the phone like seconds later. I'm like, it just did. We get there. This is 3 years ago, so COVID protocols were also like in play, and it was like one of those you have to check in and get your temperature checked and everything. But they were out there with the wheelchair waiting for me, and I just hopped in that wheelchair. They just took me straight up. I was already at like 8 centimeters, and my doctor was like, "I thought you were gonna have a baby in the car." 100% did not think you would make it. But I was not mentally prepared. I love epidurals. So
They're pretty fantastic.
they are a gift from God, honestly. All the power to all the men or women who don't get them. Like, you are much stronger than me. But I was begging for the epidural. I got upstairs and they gave it to me, but I was too far along that it didn't work. And I had zero mental preparation for this labor. I thought I was going to die. I totally thought I was going to die.
And that's like my third. I usually go a little overdue. And so I was supposed to I was waiting for a call from the hospital for just go in for an induction with him. And I didn't make it because my water broke in the middle of the night, like in my bed, of course. Super convenient. And and I was like, never had that happen. So I'm like, I should probably wake my husband up. And so I wake him up. I start timing contractions, which is tricky for me because I get silent contractions. So I don't actually feel all of them. So by the time I'm timing them, like 5 minutes apart or whatever, they're not 5 minutes apart. They're more like 2 or 3. I just don't know. And so I woke him up, and I actually had to wake him up twice, which was fun. And I had to wait an hour and 40 minutes for my mother-in-law to get there. And then she's talking to me. And at that point, I'm like deep labor, and I'm like not able to talk through my contractions. And she's just asking me all these questions. And I love her, and I understand she didn't actually experience labor herself. So, but it was very frustrating. And I'm just like, I'm going to go sit in the car. But I thought I was going to have a hallway baby too, because we get there and they're doing the check-in thing. And I'm like, can I go? I'm trying not to push. And they're like, don't push. So that's
like
what got
the stupidest thing.
Yeah. And then I get in there and they're trying to tell us, oh, she's only like 3 centimeters or whatever. And I'm like, mm-mm. And Ryan, got the nurse in here. He's like, no, check her again. She is not. This is our 3rd baby. There's no way she's like this. And she's only that far. Like, no. And then they're shoving papers in my face. And I'm just like, can I have the drugs? Please give me the drugs. I don't need to do the paperwork. Please give me the drugs.
Drugs now.
Yeah, no drugs. I did not get any drugs because then he was almost born in the hallway because they were like, okay, we need to go. We need to go. Finally understood this baby was coming out whether they were ready or not. And I was not prepared either mentally to do that without an epidural. And I was like, okay, this is happening.
Yeah, it's a wild ride.
Natural. Yes. Are we hijacking your kids?
Watching the kids.
Getting lonely without.
I know. Aren't you supposed to be watching the kids?
Who's watching the kids?
What? Right, it's the kids.
There's kids?
The
kids?
TV is watching the kids, apparently.
It's not doing a good job.
It works.
There's no substitute for a father. There really is not.
No,
And a husband in general. He's pretty wonderful. Even when he leaves, like I have things relatively well, except for my emotions. But everything else around the house I have down. But when he leaves, like, I'm a mess. Do your husbands ever travel for work?
Nope.
No. He goes into the office.
Not yet.
That's as close as it gets to travel for him. But
Steve-O has to go to the moon to see
Yes.
whether his theories are correct or not.
Very true. That's the only place he travels to. But,
It's the only he needs that hard evidence.
yeah, he tries to find what he can.
You can only find so much on the internet.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. You got the world in your hands and your phones.
Has
Right?
the internet ever changed, like maybe what you buy or what you do? Like for me, I used to love buying cookbooks, and I have such a hard time buying a cookbook anymore because I can literally find every recipe I ever needed online.
It did make me realize, like, once Pinterest hit the scene, that I am very visual with my recipes. Like, if I can't see the food, I don't really want to make it because I don't know what it's supposed to look like.
What
when
is
I'm
it
done
supposed to
with
look
it, you know?
like?
And so it
True.
actually led to me ditching all of my cookbooks that didn't have pictures in them, except for one, because it was a gift from my grandma, who is my favorite person in the whole world. No offense to my husband, but he knows it's true.
Is Con Air the greatest rom-com of all time? I got to be honest, I haven't seen it.
What is it?
It's a movie.
Okay, so it's
I don't know. That's as far as I know is that it's a movie.
So I'm
I
going
have-
to say no.
but I've seen it in like bits and pieces where it's like, it was on TV and you kind of see one chunk one time and then another chunk a different time. I'm not sure I've actually seen the entire movie. But no.
Are you ladies like rom-com kind of ladies, action movies? What kind of movies are your favorites?
I'm a horror movie person. Which not like
Nope.
I don't really do the gore so much. Like I want the ones that like get in your head. One of my favorites was 13 Ghosts, which is kind of like it's kind of a dumb movie in a lot of ways, but the idea that like they're out there and they will hurt you unless you have like the glasses to see them, like really got in my head at the time that I watched it, and I was just like,
So, like the psychological thrillers.
yes.
I was raised on
Hilarious.
monster
That
movies,
was
zombie
awesome.
movies. I
Yep.
was a zombie movie kid, because that's what my dad was into. Like we wound up going through every possible zombie movie to a point where like there was this one like 70s one where this guy's arm was possessed, and he's like, I can't hold my arm back from killing me. I'm like, it's your arm. What is it going to do? It can't bite you. Like, but whatever.
Sometimes you can't control it, man.
I know, right? I'm definitely a rom-com kind of girl. I like Jane Austen movies lately. Has been my big kick, but comedies in general, like my husband just said, second best is Kung Pao. Kung Pao Enter the Fist is clearly like the number one like stress reliever movie for me. It's just so funny, in my opinion, and one of the greatest ones that I love quoting all the time. Do you have a favorite genre or favorite movie, Mariana?
Genre, I hate horror. That's the one I hate. Other than that, I'm not really. I guess
Not for
more
everybody.
comedy. Well, I can't do horror because I have nightmares. I'm a very visual person. So if I see it and I'm trying to go to sleep and I see a scary face in the corner, I'm keeping Steven up all night because
Well,
I'm
see,
not. I'm not.
that's the part of being Catholic is then you just take the holy water.
Right?
I will say I
All the
always, whenever I really do get scared, I'll start praying Our Father. I'll pray the Hail Mary. I'll pray my Saint Michael prayer. I protect myself that way, and I'll try to, especially when I fall asleep, because I'm a very vivid sleeper too. So I know when I'm sleeping. It's very crazy. I've woken up many times in my dreams knowing I was dreaming. But like I'll try to, when I close my eyes, I'll see that scary face and I was like, all right, let's try to turn this into a puppy and rainbows and glitter.
Right, so you're fully aware that you can manipulate.
Yes. I was like, I'm not dealing with this, and it's just, yeah, that's why I don't do that, because I know I see it and I don't want to deal with it. And there's enough scary things in this world. I don't want to have an extra imagination of it. But I guess you could say kids animation. If you ask my husband, that's probably my favorite is kid animations.
Very cool.
Third movie is either Fiddler on the Roof. That's a really good one.
You love a good musical. Musicals.
Love musicals. Musicals are
I
definitely.
don't care what my husband says. Willy Wonka, not Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the older one, is not a
The
musical.
Gene Wilder one.
I want to say yes. I don't know actors' names.
That counts as
the
a horror
older
movie.
one. Yeah, that counts as a horror movie. That does not count as a horror movie.
You know, he did though intentionally screw with those kids.
Oh yeah,
so that they would be afraid of him.
Absolutely.
He wanted actual reactions. They weren't expecting his tumble roll or something. Steven is a very movie person. And so he has all these fun facts.
The scene facts about stuff.
Mm-hmm. Fun facts,
Awesome.
fun facts.
Well, I think it is about time to wrap up Ladies' Night.
Pumpkins now.
All right,
I think we might turn into pumpkins, but next time we should bring possible wine or snacks at the very least. Chocolate is a must.
I will say Aaron, Wonka was actually a really good prequel. I'll give it that. Compared to a lot of prequels that's been coming out, I hate them all. That one actually was really good.
That was good. My kids really love that one. Actually, they don't stop singing the songs from that one, which has gotten a little old, but they're kids. Whatever.
Right.
I let my kids watch Phantom of the Opera fairly recently.
I did that too, just recently, like within the last month.
Like, I can deal with you guys singing these.
I know I introduced my 9-year-old to Phantom of the Opera this last month, and that is all she's listened to. And she takes voice lessons too. She's a really good singer, and she's been singing it like crazy. And I'm okay with it. There are moments that it's like, okay, let's not do the main theme. Let's pick a different song that doesn't just scale up over and over again. But I love me some Phantom too. But all right,
my husband showed my 8-month-old nephew Blood In, Blood Out.
What?
That doesn't sound like an 8-month-old.
It is not
movie.
But he was very interested in it. I tried to cover his eyes every scene that was gory. So most of the movie he did not see. And then he fell asleep, luckily, after some people died. So I say gory, it's not really gory, but whatever.
All right. Well, how do we normally end this? So there's that.
You want to do your last
Oh, we have a song. We have a song to play. Could you grab that, Mariana?
Catholic comedy, yeah, you know the name. Married to a podcaster, it's a wild game. Helping with the sketches, voicing every scene, balancing the household, keeping it clean. Woke up early, gotta start my day. Tea in my cup, kids on their way. Catholic comedies, off to work, clocking in. I'm at home, keeping everything in. But come the evening, it's podcast time. He's setting up the mic while I prep my lines. I'm juggling it all, gotta keep it real. Laundry and dishes, got a lot to deal. I'm Mrs. Catholic Comedy, yeah, you know the name. Married to a podcaster, it's a wild game. Helping with the sketches, voicing every scene. Balancing the household, keeping it clean. Dinner's done, kids are off to bed. He's in the studio, ideas in his head. He needs a female voice, guess who's on the call? Recording my lines, then I'm back in the hall. Helping with scripts, giving him my best. Editing sketches, no time to rest. But it's all love, we make it work. In this crazy life, we find our perks. We're a team, yeah, we got each other's backs. Through the highs and lows, we stay on track. Podcast king and his queen, making it through. Together in this life, it's what we do. Mrs. Catholic Comedy, yeah, you know the name. Married to a podcaster, it's a wild game. Helping with the sketches, voicing every scene. Balancing the household, keeping it clean. I make my own bread with fresh milled flour. Organic foods, yeah, that's my power. Kids tucked in, now it's our time to chill. Talking about the day, sharing all the thrills. He's my partner, my rock, my comic relief. Through the podcast grind, we find our peace. Sketches and chores, yeah, it's a mix. But we're making memories, that's the fix. From podcast to bedtime, we're living a dream. This is Catholic Comedy, and my king supreme. Mrs. Catholic Comedy, yeah, you know the name. Married to a podcaster, it's a wild game. Helping with the sketches, voicing every scene. Balancing the household, keeping it clean. So here's to the nights and the days we spend in this crazy life with my best friend. This is Catholic Comedy, signing off the mic. Living this podcast life, it's out of sight. I'm Mrs. Catholic Comedy, yeah, you know the name. Married to a podcaster, it's a wild game. Helping with the sketches, voicing every scene. Balancing the household, keeping it clean. So here's to the nights and the days we spend in this crazy life with my best friend. This is Catholic Comedy, signing off the mic. Living this podcast life, it's out of sight.
That was a fun AI song. My husband's
That
very
was
into
really
that.
like, man, that was my jam. I gotta get that song now.
And well, I want to thank you all for joining us on the special Ladies' Night edition of Late Night Levity. It's been an absolute joy sharing stories, laughter, and a little bit of behind-the-scenes insight into what it's like being married to these amazing podcasters. That's a bit far. Tonight we heard about the balancing act that comes with supporting our husbands' passions while managing our own lives and households. From recording sketches to baking bread and keeping everything running smoothly, we certainly wear many hats. I'd like to give a special thank you to Mrs. Steve-O and Mrs. Modern Papist for being here tonight and sharing their experiences. Your stories remind us that behind every great podcaster is a strong, supportive partner who keeps things grounded and moving forward. And of course, a big shout out to my wonderful husband, Catholic Comedy. Thank you for letting me steal the spotlight tonight. It's been a blast, but don't worry, I'll leave the podcasting to you. For now, maybe. To our audience, both here and at home, thank you for your continued support and for tuning in week after week. Remember, whether you're part of the podcasting world or just a fan, it's the love, laughter, and faith that keep us all connected. As we wrap up tonight's show, let's carry the joy and camaraderie we've shared into our everyday lives. Keep laughing, keep loving, and keep spreading that light. Good night, everyone. God bless, and we'll see you all next time on Late Night Levity.
I will just say I like that he said that you stole the spotlight.
I know I might get drunk with power here. I might like this too much.
Stage a coup.
All right.
Well,
Make sure you
signing
like
off.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Totes.
Always
Totes
use
for
the heart.
goats.
Here, let's see
No
where we
cap, or whatever kids are saying.
Y'all have a good night. God bless.
Night.
Bye.